Hello and welcome to GeekVerse Sidequest, your weekly stop, and this time three times a week weekly stop for video game news, reviews, and more.
Oh
Here on the
yeah, I guess
GeekVerse
so.
Podcast Network. I butchered the explanation of that, but I am not Eddie Brock. Dylan Musk, and I have with me the clown prince of podcasts, Travis Snell. How you doing, my friend? On a little 2 p.m., little afternoon recording for us. A little bit something different here.
Yeah, very rare. Yeah, my nickname is because I literally could not think of anything. I tried my best. You got a good one there. I was on the Spider-Man one with Kirkland last week, so I feel like I used my Spider-Man quota. So just go with the OG. But no, I'm good. I love this season of the summer for movies and video games, because for movies you got big releases, and the next month we got Comic-Con, and for video games it's just Summer Games Fest showcase last week about Xbox, and it's like that E3 feel. Obviously it's not E3, but they're all doing stuff. So it's a good June, July are fun to kind of get ready for the rest of the year and the early next year.
Absolutely, yeah. So what we got going on here is covering Summer Game Fest. I feel like he didn't brand it as Opening Night Live
No,
this year.
I don't think so.
But that's always what it has been, which is, the kickoff for Summer Game Fest, that ambiguous term that no one really knows exactly what it means. But yeah, we got about like an hour and a half worth of game announcements and trailers and stuff like that to break down. Just a little mention, I guess, is that earlier this week, me and Kirkland did a standard Sidequest episode where we just talked about a bunch of the games we've been playing that was very fun. And then later in this week, it might just be me and Travis once again. And who knows, maybe Taylor will be covering the Xbox showcase plus the Starfield showcase. I don't know why that's a separate showcase if it's right after. It's kind of weird, but
Do
we're
you
gonna
know
cover both and all of it.
Have they given a time? Because I thought it was 2 hours, but do you know, is that like the whole thing's 2 hours, or is it like the Xbox is 2 hours and then the Starfield is longer than that?
I will have to look into it. I would
that
I
will
would
that will play
assume
with
hour
our
and a
start
half.
time.
I would have to assume hour and a half for Xbox, and then I think the Starfield one is a good 20-30 minutes, so that would kind of make sense. If it's 2.5 with start, that's crazy, and I would be a bit surprised if that was the case. And then after that as well, on Monday is Ubisoft and Capcom both have a showcase. Don't know how much there will be from either of those, but me and you will cover those along with, I think we're going to talk about Midnight Suns and whatever other gaming news happens. So a lot going on in the world of SideQuest. Not much to shout out other than join the Discord where, whenever there's a live show like this, we're always having a few
It's
people
fun
in there.
time.
Talking about the games and announcements and dropping memes and all sorts of stuff. So that's a good time. Make sure to head over to Patreon to get episodes early and ad free. Travis, you have something to say?
Oh, my favorite is like it's the closest because we don't get to, we're all busy. You live somewhere else. I still live in Cologne, but I live further away. Like we used to do these things where, we do the watch long and it would be like the guessing what game it's going to be. The Discord has replicated that for me because it's just like, I don't get to do that anymore. So it's fun. Like, oh, what's this? What's this? But then eventually, like today, you guys, for some reason, like I was watching the YouTube feed. You guys were like 10 seconds ahead. So I had to flip before the reveal happened because it would be like, oh my God. It's like, okay, I don't want to be spoiled by just the chat. So
what you got to do, Travis, is every once in a while change like the playback speed to 2 times speed on YouTube, and then you'll get like caught up with the main.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always do.
That's good
and
to
then,
know.
Yeah, every once in a while you can like do it again just in case you're not up to date there. But yeah, Patreon episodes early and ad-free. And right now we are trying to hit a goal of 50 patrons by the end of July 31st, and you can unlock a plethora of episodes as well as some other features and stuff, including us doing our top 15 video games of all time, a re-ranking / new ranking, Nintendo Cinematic Universe. Those are the two video game E1s, but there's also some MCU stuff, Star Wars, commentary track, all that good stuff. So that's a good thing to do. Anything else you want to shout out before we just jump into it? I know you got you got to go at like 4, right? So we have a little bit of a time.
Yeah, no, there'll be a Travis Told You supposed to be this week. It's going to get delayed to like this weekend, beginning of last week, which is fine because there's actually some Batman news that dropped today. So like, oh, perfect. That gives me enough to talk about. And then, next week, I don't think there's other than our Flash review, I don't think there's anything that big. Indiana Jones retrospectives dropped for the main feed, but no, let's get into this. I'm excited to talk about what happened today. The good, bad, and the ugly, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we always like to do just a quick overall of what did you think of the showcase. And yeah, Jeff Keighley in particular, and I think me, you in particular, and Jeff Keighley have a very back and forth situation where we're criticizing him a big time for the showcase, or maybe just one time he doesn't have great announcements, or maybe there's too many ads, whatever it is. But then I think it was last Summer Game Fest last year, the opening night live, was a great show from what I remember. And he always kind of ebbs and flows in the quality of it all. But yeah, just quick overall take. How did you feel about the showcase? How it ran, the general quality of announcements, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I'm kind of split on it where I think from an actual show standpoint and the pacing, I think it was really pretty good up until the back half. I think the back half had a couple, like, we'll get to it, but there's that one guy he's like the actor for the game where it's like, this doesn't feel like that's needed and stuff. But I think the first hour had a really good pace. I think the good thing is because also, like, we do this on the podcast, you always have to do this. I think this was the best year with the ads and sponsorships. I feel like he was doing those really quick. There's even this great moment where he was like, speaking of Final Fantasy, and for some, like, I don't know why he used that transition. The guy's like, oh, and he's like, no, don't. But like he did it, and like I feel like he was almost having fun with them this year. So it felt more natural, him even doing them, and even just like the natural ad breaks, just giving games. I'm fine if they take 3 minutes, but like, hey, we're taking a commercial break, and it's just like, okay, get set up for the next thing. So I actually think this is the best year. There wasn't some that were so egregious that were like, oh, this feels kind of just bad, you know? So that was good. I think it's a case of, I think the show for the most part ran well. There just wasn't anything for me, and I don't think he did have a big smoking gun. I know that's a big debate in our Discord. I even see that on Twitter. I feel like we'll get there, but the last game, I feel like that speaks to a certain community where Jeff was talking about it. The whole show is a very, like, in a specific way, that the way he's talked about Elden Ring, and I don't think they're the same sort of way. We'll get that till we get to the finale. So I think overall it was a good show, but there's really not much for me personally that blew me away. There's a couple fun things. There's one game in particular I'm looking very forward to, but I don't think there's anything that probably in a week from now, if you ask me what's on the showcase, I'll probably be able to give you one thing, and that's about it. So I think show-wise, he ran it well. What was in the show, maybe nothing too much to write home about other than just like a fun afternoon watching some video games. But again, maybe this was about an hour 47. They said it was going to be 2 hours. You could probably even tighten down that 17 minutes and get to an hour and a half, I think. Even with the ads, I think there's certain people that didn't need to speak. So I think it's one of the more, like, higher mid-tier ones. It's not like a complete fall in the face. It's not like a home run. It's like, okay, you got a base, but it took a while. It was a little ugly to get there, you know. Maybe you got hit, you know. So
yeah, we got Carl in the chat. You don't see him in the live stream too often these days. And then Espo also commented that the Starfield Direct, it's kind of like how the Smash Directs would be set for the Nintendo Directs. I kind of disagree, right? Because they would never do like a Nintendo Direct and then a Smash Direct immediately after that, right? It would be like, in 2 weeks we're going to do a Smash Direct. So I don't know. I guess they just want to get that as much Starfield marketing as they possibly can. But in terms of the showcase, I'm in the exact same boat as you here. I think it ran really well. It was a good pace overall. But when it just comes to like personal investment, there was very little here that did it for me. I'm usually the one that come out of any game showcase with like, oh, here's a couple like indie things that really did it for me, or I'm interested in like all genres, so there's usually something. But there was really very little here for me, and I think for a lot of people, that final game, Final Fantasy VII Part 2, I guess. That's not technically what it's called, but
yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. Let's be honest here. Yeah,
that's going to send this showcase into the stratosphere for them, and they're going to be super hyped and end on a high note. But I don't really care personally. So for me, there was honestly very, very little to get super stoked about. Now there's still a lot of things that we got to break down, so we will do that. Let's start off with we'll go chronologically here and how these things came out.
I just wanted to throw up, because we kind of done this in the before, because Jeff always throws up his polls, like when he says like what is he good, and obviously it's a very early on poll, but right now A is at 19%, B is at 35%, C is at 28%, and 18% for D, and that's with over 25,000 votes. So I feel like the general
the highest
B, and I kind of agree with that. Like I don't think C is like a had lots of disappointment. The show didn't run well. To me, a B, and I feel like that's a general consensus that it was like all right, that was a fun time, you know. Yeah,
I think B is definitely what I'd give the showcase if I take a step back and just look at how it ran and the level of things. For me personally, though, it'd be a C or even a D.
I agree. Honestly. Yeah, I'd go C for me personally. I think there's a couple fun highlights, but yeah, for personal stuff, there wasn't, which is fine, because I think we've both had conferences before where it's like, everything's been for us, or almost everything, right? And then other people like, oh, well, I'm not a fan of this, and this. It's like, oh, sorry, but, you know.
the show started off with Prince of Persia: The Last,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, not the last, The Lost Crown, which is coming out January 2024. We'll see if that date lands. We know another Prince
Yeah.
of Persia game that's been receiving many delays and cancellations and whatnot. But yeah, I think this is cool that this is kind of like a 2D platform Prince of Persia, which is where this series started back on. I don't even know where the first one came out. SNES, maybe something like that. PS1. I can't even recall where the series
PS1
started.
sounds familiar, but maybe I'll search while you're talking.
But I think it's pretty cool because I think once it hit like PS2 era, GameCube era, it went to that third person perspective, and that's always what this series has been from then on. And so I think it's cool to go back to basics in a way. And it seems also quite different than what those earlier games were, where I feel like those ones back in the day were more platformer, where this seems more focused on the combat, the action side of it. And then there is still, of course, that Prince of Persia stuff with jumping up walls and running around and comboing and whatnot. So, yeah, I don't know if this is one for me necessarily, but I think this is actually a really cool way for them to do something else with Prince of Persia, something that will harken back to what it originally was and also seems like something kind of new. So I think this was a cool way to start off the show. How about you? I don't know if I really know too much about your history with Prince of Persia. I'm guessing you've never played a 2D one. I've never played a 2D one myself.
No, you were right. Super NES was the first one there. So there you go. Yeah, it's a game that I've never, honestly, don't think I've ever fully completed front to back. I feel like it's a game I've had where it's like, I played a demo. It came with a bunch of games in a collection. I played it at a friend's house. Like I've played sections of it, but I think I've always thought, okay, that's cool, but never been for me. But I thought I was kind of like in our Discord, as we said, you can go join. Superbad might point out, I did not think we'd be getting anything like this during the remake, because that seems to be the course of action nowadays is they remake a game, it sells or doesn't sell, and they kind of base their next move off of that, right? So I liked the art style. It was a throwback. I think I want to see it run not on like a YouTube stream, because I think at times it looked almost like last gen old, and not in the way of like, oh, it's going for that style, just the way of like, I don't know if this is the best render for it here. So I'd like to see it down the line. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how the remake in this does. And I liked how like poppy the colors were. Like the blues were very nice, like light bright blues. The sands were very out there, because I feel like nowadays, like people joke about the movies, like there's just so much stuff that's just darkness or lots of grays and browns and stuff like that. So I like that it was kind of in your face. So this isn't anything that I'd be getting, but I think it was actually a good start to the show, because it was a surprise that people, at least I didn't hear widely talked about, and something fun. So it looked good for if you're into that. So
yeah, definitely. And then next up was Mortal Kombat 1, which we've seen. I think there was a trailer. It wasn't part of that Sony showcase, but it just
no, it was just a Twitter release. Yeah.
And it's talked about a lot on Sidequest, actually. Taylor and Kirkland were talking about that, and then me and Kirkland this week were talking more about Mortal Kombat, as he's been playing it some of it lately. But this is the first time that I've actually seen footage for Mortal Kombat 1. I missed the other stuff while I was away. And holy shit, the game like graphically looks insanely good, and even just some of the levels, like the first one kind of looks like a very LA style mansion. I really like that aesthetic for like a Mortal Kombat background to a level. They talked a lot. They had Ed Boon out there, the creative director, talking a lot about kind of what's going on with the story and how it is a reboot and why that makes sense and how they're doing this. And even though I'm not a Mortal Kombat guy, all of that sounded very exciting to me. And I think it was a pretty cool idea of taking these characters, maybe they're younger, different versions, or they have different relationships than they did in previous timeline, as this is kind of a new split-off timeline created from the main character turning into a god at the end of their last game.
Yeah.
And then they also had this cameo mechanic, which seems like a bit like the buddy up kind of things that a lot of fighting games have, but slight differences. I wasn't exactly clear on how that works, but I guess it's just, you have like 4 extra buttons essentially that bring in a combo character, and then each of the characters have unique combinations with each other. So honestly, all of it was great. If I was at all a 2D classic fighting game kind of guy, I think I would definitely be picking this up. I think Kirkland will, so I'm excited to hear his thoughts on it. But yeah, where are you on this one? Because I know you do peruse in Mortal Kombat from time to time.
Yeah, I think this is. I have to look because it is that point now when you go, oh, I really just have Spider-Man and Fall, and that's it. But then once you got close, you're like, well, Starfield, I think, is coming out. If we're getting this direct, I think that is coming out. You got Alan Wake 2, which I've been like wanting to put my toes in because I've never fully played that first one. I think I've just seen it, so like I've thought about doing that. But every once in a while, I think it's a franchise that I'll get and then take a couple years break. Take a couple years break and it's tough because like, there's lots of games that come out and they look good, but it's just sometimes they're pretty similar, right? And I feel like now I'm in the era of, I think, especially now if Kirkland's gonna, I might be slapping down the purchase. I gotta think about it, but I think with you, or I'm with you as far as just the look of it. It had a very cool sleekness because I feel like Mortal Kombat games have looked great, but I feel like because it's supposed to be like a new Earth or multiverse, they were giving it almost at times. I know this is going to sound stupid, but it felt like they were making it try to look realistic in a sense, like some of these character models in the worlds, and then the fantastical stuff would come in. Where usually Mortal Kombat, it's just massive cave, dragons right away. And you're like, okay, this is a whatever realm. Eventually, we got there. So I think also the point, and I think this is for a lot of people, it being a Mortal Kombat 1, a reboot where you can jump on, because Mortal Kombat is very much like comic books where the lore eventually gets very twisted and all over the place. And if you're a diehard, you can follow it. But I think this might be the time. And as we talk, or maybe I didn't talk about it because I guess I wasn't on Sidequest, the rumored DLC of some of the characters like Homelander from The Boys and stuff like that. There's just kind of everything's kind of poking me as like maybe this is the one to jump in. So, and I like that even though it's a reboot, they're keeping those classic fatalities with the X-ray zoom-ins and stuff. So I feel like it's looking like a perfect mix of a new game with the old stuff you love. The cameo stuff, I don't know how that's going to go, but I applaud them for doing it because you got to do new stuff with your franchise, right? You can't just keep it stale. So I don't know if it's something that I love, but even then it might be a good thing to pull out. If I would like it if it's like, hey, you only got a couple hits left and this could maybe, you know, turn the tides a little bit, or is it just, you know, just kind of a gimmick of like, oh, cool. And I don't know how I feel about it. Sounds like some certain characters will just be cameo characters, but
yeah. I think that's a good idea. I did get that same vibe as well, that they are a separate list of characters for those cameos. And I think it's a good way where that's a lot easier for them to include. I mean, this series has had, what was it? It was 11. This is like the 10th, or I guess 12.
This would have been 12, yeah.
Yeah, mainline entry at this point. So there's so many characters. There's no way you can, well, there is a way you can bring all of them back, but it's pretty fucking hard to do. It takes a lot of time. And I think this is a good way where, you know, obviously want to introduce new characters as well. But here we can bring back a classic character. Yes, they're not a fully playable character, but they're in there as a cameo fighter. And that seems like a pretty robust mechanic. So it's a good way to include a bunch of characters like that. So I think it's a good idea.
I think if Ed Boon ever decides to retire, he should do like a Mortal Kombat Ultimate and do that one probably wouldn't be possible because like some of those, I'll smash it. Like I'm just wondering like all the other, like the Terminators, the Jokers, the Predators, the Freddys. But man, I would love if sometime in my life we get like a Mortal Kombat Ultimate and just work on this game for 5-7 years and just every character known to man is in this game. I doubt that'll ever happen because Smash just that. I'm that the fact that the game still exists is a gift, but maybe one day. So
I know, and it still remains to be seen how they follow that up, right? Like how is Smash?
Oh.
Where are they going to go from here? That's a cast I want to do at some point. Just dive into.
They should have stopped. They should have. They should be like, we're not doing this again for 20 years. That's it. Like give it a long rest because you can't top that, you know.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think I might be picking this one up. I gotta wait to see, but I think I'm in the realm of getting excited for it. I like the reboot aspect. So yeah, I think I'm more, especially because if Kirkland's getting it, then it's like, okay, we could slide and do a review together and stuff. So I think, and it would be good if we're all around for 24-hour stream. Like,
yes, that will be a good time.
Yeah, those are always times, because I feel like there's times we've played Tekken and stuff like that. So we're like, none of us play these games, but it's fun just to, okay, for an hour, we're going to go in there and see what happens. So.
Yep. Okay, next up was a look at Path of Exile 2, which I guess has been, announced for a while. But according to Keeley, has kind of been going in the dark for a while. So I think it's like 2 years we haven't seen it. I thought this was honestly like one of the worst showcases for your game, because Path of Exile is great from what I've heard. It exists in this kind of adjacent to Diablo sort of realm. But they just showed like a 30-second gameplay sequence of one character walking down a hallway. Like I feel like you need to show a bit of a sizzle reel in a trailer like this with a variety of locations and characters and movesets and stuff. And it's genuinely something I am interested in because I do love Diablo. But yeah, I feel like this is especially after it's been dark for 2 years, and this is like them coming back to, hey, we're still making this game, it's still coming out. To show this, I thought was just pretty underwhelming. I don't know if that's. I can't imagine any Path of Exile fans were too excited, other than the fact that their game was there. But
Yeah.
like this showcase was pretty meager.
Yeah, it didn't do much for me. Obviously, I don't got my eyes fully on it because it's not anything I'd be playing. I think for me, it's not. It's two ways. There was the introduction of, oh, everyone's loving Diablo 4. Well, check this out. I don't think you should ever do that unless it's literally like something tied to Diablo, because I feel like right away you put it on like a lesser greater than scale for people. Because even when I have, like, you have your notes, but even following along, like IGN had listed, that's what I was. New trailer for Path of Exile 2 teases a free-to-play Diablo 4 alternative. And it's like, I think it'd be different if Diablo 4 didn't just come out, but it's the hype is there right now. And I just feel like even though this is a free to play, that's the route you're going. And then if not, you got to have a good showing. And for me, it's like the same thing as usual. It can be a game I'm not interested in, but if it's a good showing, I go, well, they did that very well. I don't think they did the same thing like you said with Mortal Kombat, right? You're not getting it, but it's like, hey, they did a great job of everything to sell you on. If you're a Mortal Kombat fan, this is for you. I don't think this was, it just kind of felt like it wasn't there, because then we moved on quickly, and yeah. It was what it was.
Next up, so there's been many celebrity cameos making their appearance on Game Awards, Summer Game Fest over the years. I gotta say, I feel like this was maybe the best one, or one of the best ones, in that it wasn't awkward or weird. Like, it just worked. But Nick Cage came out to show off that he's in Dead by Daylight. I somehow thought that him and Keeley had like good chemistry going on there, and I thought, Taylor was just frothing at the mouth in the Discord, reacting to seeing his favorite guy up there. It's funny when they actually like cut to the gameplay reel after, and I was like, oh god, like I know you're never really that zoomed into the character. Maybe in game he didn't look amazing there.
No.
This is a cool thing, I guess, but I think that was my main takeaway here, is that, like, okay, this was actually a fun celebrity cameo, and it didn't take me too out of the show, which has happened many times before.
The only thing I found weird, I love Nick Cage. It was great. I still probably put Keanu as the top as far as celebrity appearances ever, because that was just like a fun, and there was just 20, like, or not 20 minutes, like 20 to 40 seconds of him just interacting with the crowd, not doing the script. But Nick Cage is always a good time. I think for me, what was odd is they did this collab. I can't remember what it was. Oh, Street Fighter and dinosaurs or something, right? And he's like, oh, well, this was probably the most craziest collab you've ever seen until this. And it's strange, because I'm not sure if you had caught it, but like this has been out for 2 weeks, this news. So
Right.
it was odd that, and I feel like he's done that a couple times this show, where he tries to really, so I'm like getting excited. It's like, oh, well, we've heard it. Luckily Cage was there, so that goes away. So it was fun. I don't know if this will get me back to Dead by Daylight. I think this is another thing that, unless Taylor plays it before, would be good to say for a 24-hour stream. Get Taylor in there and Nick Cage and create some magic. But other than that, I don't foresee myself logging back into that just to play with Nick Cage. I love Nick Cage, but my time, I think, with that is kind of done. And I wasn't always the biggest fan of that. I liked it enough, so.
I do know that you are a fan of The Witcher. So what did you think about this season 3 trailer? I don't know if this is the first look at the...
It is, yeah. Okay. To be honest, I half watched it because I know this sounds bad. I will watch it. I just have really little care knowing that Henry Cavill's done after this, you know? So it's just like, I will watch as like a send-off, but my interest for the show has just fallen off a cliff. And it sucks because there's other actors and characters I like, so I will give it a try, but it's just so it looked like more Witcher. It looked good, like from what I saw, but I guess it's just a general lack of interest now, because you just know it's just odd. It's just like if you were to get, I don't know, like what's coming, if you were to get I don't know, Mission Impossible is the next one coming up, like, hey, but then Tom Cruise is out the next one and it switched over. That's a bad comparison because that's like years, but it's an odd situation. But it looked good, and I think this was a smart one to put there. It was, I think, probably the best showing as far as the video game adaptions that we got here, because there's one that we got later on that,
oh my god, yeah.
I hope Keeley got a good paycheck for it, because it was not worth the time. I don't think so. Yeah, so it looks good. Looks like a good send off, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I just finished the third Witcher book, like probably a couple months ago. So I'm working my way through the books. I think my plan is to read all of those and then start the games, which I think they're remaking the first one. So I might even wait for that remake. So I don't know when I'd watch the show. Like definitely after I'm done all the books. I don't know when, before or after the game. So
Yeah.
I'll check it out someday, but not
Exactly.
not this day, not even this year, not even probably within the next 5 years. But someday I'll go back and check it out. Sonic Superstars is kind of similar to Prince of Persia. Actually, it's okay. Sonic's been doing 3D stuff for a bit here, but here is a classic 2D Sonic game. I gotta say, like visually, like the animations and stuff, I thought it just seemed like a very low budget title. And I'm also not a just fan of Sonic gameplay in general, so this is definitely not for me. And then, I mean, it seemed like there was kind of a focus once again on co-op. You can have up to 4 people, which to me seems very chaotic for a Sonic game and does not seem like the kind of platformer where co-op would work very well. So I guess, I don't know. I think it would take a lot for me to get sold on picking up a new Sonic game, but this was certainly not it. But how'd you feel about that one?
Oh, this is the one I'm probably the most excited for the show, because
Ooh,
I
okay.
still at some point will, we're talking about the Discord, I will get Frontiers. I liked the look of it. It looks like fun. It just was not a $80 purchase for me. That's one where it's like I can wait for a good Christmas sale or Games Pass. So it's on the list, and I've heard, oh, it's fun enough. For this, it's not like that high level budget, but it reminds me a lot of when we got this for, I think, for the Wii and the Wii U, right? When we did that whole upgrade as far as it was the Mario, like side-scrolling things, but it's, 3D now and has some different dimensions. That's what this is, just not as done as well. But I like that idea. I do like the original Sonic games, so I am a Sonic fan. Again, I don't know what the pricing this will be, but for me as well, the multiplayer, that sells me for maybe not now, but maybe for a few years down the road, because the kids, they like the Sonic and stuff like that. So it'll be good for that. I do agree with you now saying that, because I thought about Mario. I'm like, oh, there's times where you move slowly on a platform. Thinking about Sonic, yeah, I don't know how you do pull it off, because the whole thing is about you're running fast. You're running at a supersonic speed, no pun intended, to get to point A to point B. So do you get pulled back? Do you have to go as a group? Is it not so much about the speed in these games, which I imagine it is? So I didn't think about that until you said it. At first, like, oh, that's just fun, multiplayer. So this is a game I'll probably be, unless it's off, which so far, like, I feel like the Sonic games, even Frontiers, like, Metacritic, it's like a 71. Like, they're still putting out, like, pretty good, decent games and stuff. So I think this will be a fun play at some point. I was a fan of, like, okay, cool. They haven't really done this yet as far as like the side-scrolling OG classic games, but it's with a new coat of paint, and I think that's a good way to go, because they already did Sonic Mania a couple years ago, right? So I feel like that kind of hit that classic vibe. So this is a little updated. So no, I'm excited for this down the road.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that those movies have been going on, because
Yeah.
I still have not seen them. But I think it is a good timing for, hit people with Sonic in all sorts of ways. You did the open world one, now do just another classic 2D one. I feel like they're doing multiple Sonic games a year. They even did that Sonic like murder mystery earlier this year, right? Like
Really?
it was like an April Fool's joke, but it was actually like
Oh.
apparently a pretty good game that it's like free on Steam. I don't know if you can play on your laptop.
Really?
But you should check it out. I think it was just called The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. So, yeah, go check that out. I heard
Never
good things
heard of
about
that. I gotta watch it.
and then next up was Lies of P, a game that we've seen quite a few times now at this point. I think it's been at Game Awards. So it seems like Keely's a big fan of this one. It's coming out September 2023. Really the big new thing here was just saying that there's a demo out. I know that Superbad Mike in the Discord said he downloaded that immediately. I'm going to download this too and check it out at some point here, hopefully in the next month or two. But yeah, I think this game looks very good, and I guess I keep being surprised by feeling that way about it, because it just seems like an idea that would not work so well. I guess I don't know if it's a criticism, but one thing I just see when I see this game is it looks great visually. I like the art style. I like what they're doing here, where it's Pinocchio kind of story. But then, like when they finally switch to the gameplay, it doesn't seem quite as crisp as those cinematics and the general aesthetic. So obviously that's why demo is fantastic. I can check it out for myself to confirm such a thing. But yeah, where are you at with this one?
This is a game that I'm happy for you to be the guinea pig, because I'm so curious about it. Because I remember when we first got it revealed, it's like, oh, this is probably going to be awful. And then I was like, actually, it was so surprised that it didn't look that bad. So I feel like I'm always torn between, is this is this a game that's going to surprise us, or is this going to be a classic game that once everyone plays it, you go, oh yeah, it's a classic 4 out of 5. Like it's one of those games that's going to go away. Like remember, I guess that game got canceled, didn't or did not? What was that game where the guy had the headphones and he was fighting the dragons and stuff? That got canceled, right?
Oh, Scalebound, yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, that didn't come out, but that would have been that game. I feel like it, or like even Forspoken, where I think it reviewed fine, but it just came and went, right? And I feel like it could be that. Like I don't know. I'm curious, and there is that demo, so I did think about that, but it's like I just don't know if I got the time. But I'm very curious to see what you and others think, because it's an odd looking game, and I want to do well because I think there's something fun about like play on this fairy tale, a very big play on this fairy tale. So I still can't gauge. Like if you were to ask me like what would I put this on Metacritic, I don't know which way it's gonna go. I really don't. So.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna end up being kind of middling, like a 70, 75 or something. But it might be one of those 70, 75s that people just love. So I don't know.
True, yeah.
And then next up was actually a highlight for me was this game called Sandland, which I also just love.
Right.
It's kind of a dumb, simple name, but I'm into it. It has art by Akira Toriyama. I just Googled it right now, and apparently this is like a popular manga at some point, which I did not realize. So that's
I only knew that because Jeff said it. That's the only reason I knew it. Yeah,
I totally missed him saying that, but that's pretty cool. But I was just talking on Sidequest earlier this week that I've been playing some Dragon Quest, which also has art by Akira Toriyama, and so I love the look of this. It's 100% my jam. I love how vibrant and colorful it is. It seems like a game where, I don't know, you have your playable character, but then I feel like he was in like a mech suit. He's in all these different vehicles traveling around, and it just seems like a fun adventure. So I obviously have to see a lot more in terms of maybe a longer look at what the gameplay is like, some of the combat I'm curious about. Is it like an open world situation? It kind of seems like it. I feel like a couple things that sell me, I could see myself picking this one up depending on what the price is, what the release date is, and all that stuff. But I think this is a nice surprise for me. I wouldn't have expected something like this, but I thought it looked pretty cool. I'm guessing this is not a big Travis joint, but what did you think of it?
I think it looked great for if you're like yourself into that, and just aesthetically, color wise and animation wise, it looked great. I don't know how it compares to the manga, but like it had a nice vibrance to it, and it had like quick motion. I feel like it's like it's not a cinematic trailer in the sense of that way of like just a cutscene and stuff, but it made it feel like bigger then, and Keeley seemed like he was happy with it. So no, not a Travis game, but I think it had a good showing, and I felt like there's lots of buzz around it online as far as people that are in that community liked what they saw. So that's always a good sign.
I guess this is part of Summer Game Fest. So Jeff Keighley announced that Annapurna is doing their own showcase, which they've been doing for at least last year, maybe the 2 years now. They've been doing their own little interactive showcase, whatever they have a fun name for it there. So there isn't really much to glean from this. One thing I was kind of confused about is he said, like, I don't know if this was supposed to, the footage that we were seeing was like, here are things you're going to see in the showcase, or here are just things that Annapurna does. Because Outer Wilds was in there, and I don't think like Outer Wilds is getting more content or a sequel. I think that studio is going to go make something different. I could be wrong, and I would love if Outer Wilds 2 or whatever it is a thing that gets announced. But also that game just had a big DLC come out in September, and the DLC is like as big as the original game. So I don't know. I feel like they were just doing a scissor reel of here's things that Annapurna does. But the one thing that I think we can actually glean from this is that I feel like this kind of confirmed either Stray DLC or a Stray sequel. Did you get that vibe? And if so, which one of those two ways do you think it's going?
I feel like DLC first, but at the same time, like you said, they showed off that other game, so it's like, are they just showing snippets of stuff? But if it were anyone, I would say it's probably DLC. I don't think it's a sequel quite yet, but maybe just an add-on here too. So that's what I definitely got the vibe. It was something new, but I would say DLC.
Yeah, I guess I would just be so curious because the game itself is like 4 hours long, and so I don't know, would they do a DLC that's like
2 hours,
an hour long, 2 hours long? Like at that point, why not just put that into a new game? That game sold super duper well, so I feel like as soon as even last summer, a couple weeks after it came out, we knew the sales were huge, and feel like at that moment you could confirm this game's getting a sequel already. So I guess
like huge, like huge in perspective, or huge like hang with the other big dogs of the year. And
no,
stuff
like
because I did.
I'd have to look into the actual numbers, but like really, really, really good
Okay,
sales.
there you go.
If there's a down moment, maybe I'll look up and see if I can find a
Sure.
number for you here. But it
People
did
want to
really,
be a
really well.
cat.
Yeah, it was like best selling on Steam for like a while, and whatnot. So there you go. I'll definitely be covering the Annapurna showcase whenever I forget. I think he said it's like next month or in July or something. So, well, I guess next month is July, so it's in
Next
the summer.
month is July, yeah.
I'll cover it. Next up, there's kind of two games that were back to back, and then I bundled in a third one here. Is I feel like last Summer Game Fest, the theme was like survival horror games in space. There was like so many of those, and I feel like if there's one for this year, it's fantasy multiplayer MMO. Like I don't know exactly what they are games, but there were so many of them. There was Throne and Liberty. There's a game called Warhaven, which is just both of those are some of the worst titles I've ever seen. There was King Arthur Legends Rise, and I watched the showcase an hour ago, and I could not tell you the difference between any of these three games. So I don't know. I don't know what they are. Are they MMOs? Are they like multiplayer focused combat situations? I don't think they're single player. I feel like it's kind of one of those things when we talked about New World, when that game was getting trailers, like, oh, this game looks fantastic. But then we were like, oh, it's MMO. Probably not going to check it out. And I feel like these games feel like, okay, New World was very successful and is still very successful, and they're trying to follow in those footsteps. That's maybe too reductive and a bit mean, but that's unfortunately the vibe I had from all three of those trailers.
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of put them together because it was the similar kind of complaint that the PlayStation Showcase had a couple weeks ago of like the lots of extraction shooters, that buzzword or whatnot, as far as multiple, just like there's a goal, there's some battle pass stuff. So yeah, I think they just kind of feel all samey, and especially because they're not exactly, but they're kind of, I feel like, in almost sometimes a similar vein of like Final Fantasy. So when you get the last game, which is like the mecca of that, and then you got here it's kind of like the Diablo versus oh gosh, what was the name of that game
Path
we were
of
just
Exile.
talking about? Yeah, it's like when you have them on the same show, there's always going to be a lesser than. So yeah, I didn't have much to add to them, and nothing felt like this was pushing any of the genres forward. So,
And I mean, me and you are both big fantasy fans, so I feel like you already got a foot in the door in terms of like trying to sell us on these things, but they kind of just dropped the ball. Next up, Alan Wake 2. So you were a big fan of the showcase from the PlayStation thing. So this is some official gameplay here and a little bit more information. The, I guess, creative director came out to explain some more, in which I don't think
a little
he did
bit,
a great job.
a little bit long.
Why don't you take it away here and tell us about Alan Wake?
Yeah, I like what I saw, even though I feel like it's not a game. Like when they're like, we're going to show you gameplay, and I think he had even said that before. That doesn't really interest me in this because I feel like Alan Wake is going to be about the vibe of you playing it in the story. It's cool that you saw an enemy type and some shooting, and then eventually transitioned to a similar trailer we got from the PlayStation Showcase. So that didn't do too much for me, and the guy coming out to talk didn't do too much either. So it's tough because, as I talked about, there's Mortal Kombat, and this, I think they were pretty close. Like, I think one of them's the 19th and another one's like the 27th. Like they're very close. So that's where it's like, I might have to pick. So my goal, because I don't think you've, maybe you listen on Sidequest, I've mentioned that I've made myself a list of games to kind of complete before September and stuff like that. I actually was diving into Hitman, the newest Hitman one, finally. Yeah, I finally there, and I'm almost about to beat that. So, and I have Hitman 2 as well. So that's where it's like, okay, I want to get in those. So I don't know. I have to look at how long Alan Wake is. My deciding factor might be maybe trying to play that, beat that, and if I really love the entire experience, go to it. If not, maybe it'll be like the first one, wait. So I think everything they're showing from the game looks good as far as what I like about it, the horror trippy aspect of there's a murder mystery, there's lots of stuff going on. It's not a full mix of just ghosts and goblins. Looks like there's some like human factors too that are issues and stuff. I actually do like the dual, like Alan Wake and the detective thing. I think there's some really fun things you could do there. So it's a game at some point I will play. The hype's been getting to me. I almost wish it was in October. Not so much now, because obviously we got some news. We'll talk about what we'll be doing in October, at least myself. So I think it's hitting all the right buttons. I'm just curious to see how well this sells in this time, because there's just so many games out, So
I want to do a quick aside on that game. How many games you got on that list, Travis, that you're trying to beat?
I got Harry Potter Legacy, which I only have 5 hours left. I literally put that in, or what is it, Hogwarts Legacy. I put that in, and that's what made me go to Hitman because like I wasn't getting into it. So I might kind of wait till me and Emily watch the movies again, and I might have that like, oh, I want to go to Hogwarts. So I got Legacy. I got Hitman 1 and 2. I don't own 3. Like I said, beat
It's
all
on
the
Game Pass
originals
right now, the trilogy.
Is it? Okay, so good. So then I'll do that. So in Hitman 1, like the story, I really only have 2 missions, and that's been a ball of fun getting back into that. Like it felt like riding a bike. Because I played Blood Money, I played years worth probably. That was a lot of summer vacations for Travis in middle school. It's just like I'm gonna kill everyone.
Do you have
this
a favorite
yacht.
level so far in that? I think Paris or Sapienza usually are the go-to from Hitman 1 for people.
Paris, I like with the shows and stuff. I love the mansion and everything like that. There's I can't remember what's the mansion that you got to take out the brother and sister duo, and there's like a virus you have to take out.
That's Sapienza, yeah. Italy,
I love the look of it. I hate the level because it's fucking There's just like, yeah,
it's
and
one
I'll
of the
just,
biggest levels in the whole trilogy. Yeah,
and I'll be on a path, and then something happens. Like, man, I'm here for another 45 minutes just waiting for her to leave this room. I'm figuring out like how many people are gonna recognize me. So honestly, those are probably the two. But yeah, there's that. There is because I never officially beat it. I still have Elden Ring on there, so I want to. I feel like I've looked into it. And I feel like I am near it. But there's Elden Ring. Oh, I don't know if there's anything else. So I kept to like 4 or 5 games because I wanted to be respectable. But there's just games on my list that I wanted to get before Spider-Man. I feel like there's one other one.
I'm trying to think what else you've been playing lately.
Hearing on video games playlist. And it's the Mario games because Taylor borrowed me the Mario Superstar, like the 3 together. Yeah. I've beat those games before, but I just wanted to just replay them and stuff like that. So that one's lower tier because I've beat them, but so that was just what my summer's looking like right now. Yeah. So
I am excited to talk to you more about Hitman. When
yes, I'm excited. I was up to like 2 a.m. on a work night. It was bad. I was like, no, I should have gave this game up a long time ago. So
it's so good. Yeah, so getting back to Alan Wake. Okay, first of all, I was very confused by this. I feel like the creative director came out and he said this is our first survival horror game. Did you catch that? He said something like that, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Is this not... What happened to Alan Wake 1? Does that not count?
I wonder how many... I know it's like a horror game. How much survive... Like... What is the term of survival you think he's using? Because there's a survival horror game, but the survival literally of like a food system and like a exhaustion system. I feel like
survival usually just means some sort of resource. So it could be food, but I feel like the battery system in the first game would like count as that. Maybe he just meant Alan Wake was their first survival horror series. Maybe not necessarily like specifically the second one, but... Anyway, I feel like he was maybe a bit nervous up on stage or something, so maybe he just spoke a bit funnily. But I didn't catch that original trailer from the PlayStation State of Play, or I guess it was not a State of Play, although it very well could have been. The showcase. So there's, this is all kind of new information for me. I like the idea of the 2 playable characters, and it seems, I think they maybe talked about that far too much.
Yes.
Like they kept saying it over and over again. But the idea of being able to switch between them, not on the fly, but it seems at certain points you can go back and forth. And it seems like it's optional in terms of like you could probably play most of the game, if not all of it, with Alan until maybe the end, he said. Or you could switch back. I don't think we know the name of the woman detective character yet.
I'm sure it's on IMDb or something.
It'd be nice
if
I did have that name. Yeah. But I'll just say the detective. So switch it, or maybe you could play as her for maybe 90% of the game or whatever it is. So I don't know if that'll probably be pretty good for replayability or even just variety in terms of having potentially different movesets or feels to them. So that's kind of an exciting thing. I gotta say though, like the gameplay, you made a good point of like, I don't know if seeing a little gameplay snippet here is going to really put you in the headspace of what it's like to actually play the game. But I did not think that the gameplay showcase was all that great for what it was. Just felt like it was a bit too slow. I feel like graphically I wasn't blown away that could be like YouTube compression and all that sort of live stream sort of stuff. But I still am... I guess I don't know if this is a day one yet for me, even though I do love that first game. Although... It probably will be. I feel like I want to jump in there. I guess it's just that release date is getting a bit tricky. There's a lot of things getting stuffed into October now. So I'll have to just wait and see.
I feel like I'm really hoping for my sanity that Starfield is a November game. I would love that to happen.
You want it to get delayed, you mean?
Oh shit! It's September, right?
Yeah, coming out early. It's coming out September 8th, I think.
I talked about this on Sidequest once. I keep forgetting it has an actual date. I really
yeah.
do. Maybe actually, I do want it to get delayed. Just because like there's just there's a better window of games for me to play in November, like to be free. But yeah, because I feel like now, like already,
I think it's coming out October, is it not?
we got Alan Wake and Mortal Kombat are September, right?
Alan Wake's October, and so
Is it October?
And so is
Okay.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's tough. Okay, for some reason I thought, is it early October Alan Wake? Is it like October 3rd or something?
God, maybe I'm mixing up. I'll do a quick Google of it here. But I
Okay.
thought it was like later in October.
Because that's the tough thing for me. I already got 4 games right there of like
October 17th, which is that not the same day as Spider-Man?
Spider-Man's October 20th, so it's the same week. So Alan Wake's not happening for me right now. I'll say that right now. Yeah,
that's a tricky thing for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So, but that's a tough thing for me. Like that's where it comes down to. Starfield's not as tough because luckily it's on Games Pass, and I think that's a review where we'll all have all hands on decks. But that's like. And even Mortal Kombat, that'll be a good one to get, but that's an easy one of like, okay, I'll play with everybody, but I don't have to finish the story, stuff like that. Alan Wake, and that also depends to Alan Wake. I'll wait till we get close to see like what. Do you remember like how long? Because it's just a pretty narrative game. Like how long that first one takes to beat, roughly.
God, I mean, I played it in high school and I haven't gone back to it. I want to say like 10 hours around that point.
Yeah, so it's not like terrible. At the same time, I don't want to rush past it, but who knows? Who knows what happens?
And I think the other reason for me wanting to pick it up is just like, I mean, obviously Remedy is on fire right now and controls like a lot of people's game of the year in 2019. So I feel like I want to play, an Alan Wake with like the Remedy glow up that has happened in recent times. So even though it's the same day as Spider-Man, I don't know, or same week.
No, you got 3 days. You got 3 days.
3 days to blast through it. If it's 11 hours again, then I could see that happening. I could do that. I've done it before. Yeah. Apparently, the character's name is Saga, according to Superbad Mike. So thank you for that. I like that name. That's not. I guess I was gonna say it's not like a regular name, but I guess the weird thing going on with the characters in the story is they were saying something about how like Alan he's obviously a writer and he's like writing the sequences that she's playing through. So I don't know if she's an entirely fictional character or she like blends between being kind of like a fictional character. And
that's what I can't wait for. I think that because I know they said, you'll switch back and forth. I guarantee there's probably gonna be segments where you can't, and it's gonna be story driven. And I think there's gonna be something really, really fun there. Like I trust them to do some good stuff there.
And that kind of tracks for what was going on in Control, a very much a trippy game, and this is in the same world as Control, or I guess vice versa. I think they confirmed that Control is in like the Alan Wake universe, so they're all in this one collective universe now. So the more I talk myself up, the more I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm going to pick this game up. And I mean, just that release date horror game in October is fantastic. I also did, though, like on sale, there was a good sale. I picked up both Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, so I'm saving those for October, but I don't know. Maybe I can't now. Maybe I got to get to them sooner because October is filling up quick over here. Next up was Warhammer Space Marine. I don't have much to talk about with this one. Should we skip along here?
Tweet at Kirkland Patzer if you want his thoughts.
Tweet at Kirkland Patzer.
Of course, we're gonna have to. I was just looking at the schedule for the Spider-Man game. We're gonna have to do a Loki midnight review because that's the Friday as well. They're the same day. Loki episode and a Spider-Man. So I was just curious because I was looking at my taking days off. I was like, it is, but it's a lot of stuff going on.
There's another game called Yes, Your Grace Snowfall. This is a sequel. This is a game that I've had on my Steam wish list, the original one, for years, and I've just never picked up. The sequel looks virtually the same. I think it just looks a little bit better graphically, and I guess they have like a slightly different setting for it, so that's cool. There's this game called Toxic Commando, which is like a John Carpenter thing coming out 2024. This is a weird one for me where I feel like on paper a lot of this seems cheesy, goofy, and like the gameplay didn't look amazing. But I'm also like really into it for some reason.
Really?
Like,
Wow.
I don't know.
Okay.
It seems like a kind of a zombie kind of fighting game with a focus on being in a vehicle and traveling, and like zombies are piling up on your vehicle and you got your crew in there. I'm guessing this is like a co-op kind of survival-y sort of game. At the same time, I don't know what it is about it, but it just, I guess I was going through this showcase and a lot of things seem generic or samey, and this like stood out to me, and I'm like, yeah, this seems like if this is on Game Pass, I get some friends to play this with, like this would be like a really fun weekend game.
Yeah, I'd play it. I'd try it out. Yeah, John Carpenter's name doesn't get me enough to try this. I don't know what the release date's going to be. I don't know what pricing is going to be and stuff like that. It looked kind of just fine for me. I feel like it's a game that's going to come out and could be like 5 and 4s. You know, I hope not for its sake, but yeah, it didn't do much for me. The Toxic Commandos one, other than oh, cool, John Carpenter's part of some more games. So
yeah, there was another. There's a show for Baldur's Gate 3, and I thought this was very strange because I am very interested in this game. I think it looks great, and everything I've heard from, well, there's been a lot of previews and like early access and people who have played the game and have all said really good things, even though it's like an earlier state. I think this is coming out in August. And so I'm like on the fence of whether or not I should pick it up. But then like the showcase here is just like, maybe he's a very famous guy and I just don't know who he is, but a voice actor in a booth, like doing his thing and then showing like what he looks like in game talking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not selling me on the game. I want to see some more gameplay. I want to see like a new character class. I want to see like a nice sizzle reel, like some boss fights and stuff like that. But what they chose to show here seemed like a huge fumble for me. And I don't know, maybe this guy's like a huge big deal in like geek nerddom or something, but I didn't know who he was, so it didn't really move the needle for me.
Someone in the chat let us know. Yeah, no, this hasn't been anything up my alley. So it was kind of I was already not too interested in it. And then once I saw this kind of go down, okay, nothing for Mr. Snail here. So, but hopefully it's plays fun. Odd choice though, unless it's a celebrity. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't know what we're doing here. Like I said, maybe I'm showing my lack of knowledge as far as the gaming voice acting community. Maybe it's what people consider the greatest voice actor of all times there, but you know.
Let's take our quick break here, and then we'll get back into, I guess, kind of the second half of the show at this point. We'll be right back. Travis, we are back. Spider-Man 2 made his appearance. I don't think anyone was really expecting this, just because it had a huge showcase at the PlayStation showcase. Release date is October 20th, as we've already talked about. I have not watched that full showcase yet from the Sony thing. So what is the new info that was shown today?
Nothing.
Okay.
The date, and they confirmed that, as your name says, it's not Eddie Brock, which I don't understand why there was, because obviously you were traveling. There's tons of theories. People still think, oh, it's still going to be Eddie. Da, 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 da. I just feel like the game in the second one clearly set up, even if it's not Harry, I feel like they just were clearly setting up, we're going a different path. And this is what me and Kirkland talked about is, okay, you have the Harry thing. Who knows what happens to that? You got Craven, you got Miles and Peter together. You got Peter with the symbiote. I'm sure Storm and Norman's around. They confirmed Lizard. There was another villain they confirmed too. So that's just like, there's a lot going on where I just thought the Eddie story was not going to fit here. And I think this is the best thing for them, because I'll be repeating a little bit, but them saying, hey, this is not a direct adaptation of a comic storyline. It's taking elements. I think that's the best thing, because that was my biggest issue with the first game, is that it felt too much like the comics. It felt too much like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. The story was fine, but it just felt very similar. Oh, good. Shocker's back and Black Cat. And Black Cat's excited because, sorry, Cameron, is excited because only DLC people had knowledge of her, right? So she's a great iteration of that character. So I like that they're saying we're telling our own story. Now they have to go make sure, because obviously adapting what they did with Doc Ock and Sinister Six, it was good but safe. Now you just gotta make sure it's a good story, because if not, then people go, well, you should just went the safe route, went Eddie Brock and told the story of Peter versus Eddie. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I guess the concept art of Venom was new too, because we've not actually seen a full look of Venom. We've just seen the face, so
yeah,
that was new.
Pretty hyped about that in the crowd.
And I'm happy. He's a beefy version. You know, I always like Venom to be like a big tanker guy. And I feel like now in this decade, it's getting that way. Like, I feel like that's the version. But for a while, he was just kind of more like, oh, he's just a more muscly Spider-Man. So the date, I'm very surprised, because I was talking about in the showcase that I was concerned that they didn't give a date, because they're just like, oh, we're very excited for fall, but we're just not ready yet. And it's like, we've been down this road before. So they said the 20th. So I'm going to stick to the word now that I think it is coming out then. I think they got it. And yeah, I'm very excited and stuff. It's I wasn't expecting this, so it was odd. And he didn't really reveal much more new stuff, to be honest. So yeah,
I mean, this is the game that will be the thing that forces me to pick up a PS5. So I will. I know I've been going to get one at some point, and this is finally the impetus. I have to pick it up at some point over the summer to get ready for this game.
Yeah. See, I didn't know this. The voice of I must have not seen him clearly. Jason Isaacs. I love Jason Isaac. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know if Jason Isaac deserves like a big showing, but I love Jason Isaac. He's the one of the best hooks.
You buying Baldur's
He's
Gate
the
3
patron.
now, or
Absolutely not. He's in this great show that got canceled that I loved first season. It was about he was caught in between a real world and a dream world. Jason Isaac, great stuff. Yeah, I missed that. So maybe I'm just not used to the way he looks now. So
Okay. Yeah, as for Spider-Man, I don't really want to reiterate anything that you and Kirkland broke down. I listened to your guys' coverage of that, but I did not listen or haven't watched the whole PlayStation showcase. But I'm excited for Kraven. I'm excited for Venom. It's hard for me to say whether or not the Eddie Brock thing hurts or helps, I guess. I would, just because I don't know. I haven't read all the comic books, right? So I don't know, like maybe there's some other written version of Venom that is not Eddie Brock that's really interesting and really great. And I just have to wait and see and play the game to decide whether or not that was the right way to do it. But it doesn't immediately hurt my excitement, even though I'm loving Eddie Brock in Midnight Suns. I like that version of the character. I think one of the things that was maybe the most exciting for me that they mentioned here is that the map is about double the size. So obviously it's still in New York, and it doesn't seem like they're expanding it like beyond the bridges, but they're just making some of the neighborhoods and districts bigger, and then the general scale is increased. So I think that's a good way to do it of, okay, if you're going to reuse the same open world map, how do you spice it up? Obviously, Tears of the Kingdom did that in one way, and this is just doing it in a very different way that I think is a pretty smart way to go about it. The gameplay they showed here, was that the same gameplay from the showcase?
with the tendrils and the Venom
looked amazing.
Suits.
Looked fantastic.
Looks
Can't wait to try out some of those abilities. So yeah, I'm very excited for this game. I love all those villains and just excited to get back in that world, especially after Miles Morales was a bit of a dip for me in terms of it not being that full release and me being a bit disappointed by the scale of it. I'm excited to go into this and it be just probably everything that I've been waiting for since, I guess, 2018 is when that original one came out. So
Yeah, you can pre-order now, and they have a digital deluxe, which of course has a bunch of suits and stuff. I don't know if those
skins. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if those are going to be just specifically linked to the game or whatnot. I was kind of, I don't know if I want to do that. I was kind of hoping they might do like you at least get to play it a couple days early. Then I would be like, okay, I'll fork over 10 more bucks.
The same day as Alan Wake.
October 17th. Nothing else.
Okay. Moving along, there was this game called Pal World, which is very much on the nose, ripping off Pokemon, but it's like Pokemon that's more violent
with
and
guns.
Even, man, down to like the designs of some of these Pokemon not Pokemon. These pals
See, exactly,
are incredibly close to just like very famous Pokemon. Like I don't know,
like
some of them,
lawsuit close.
They honestly are like Gardevoir, whatever that character's name is. Like that is exactly the same, and like little Piplup looking Pokemon. All these things that look very, very similar. So this is not the first reveal for this game. We've seen it before. I can't remember where, but I've definitely seen this game in the past. Travis, I know you're a famous Pokemon hater, so I'm guessing this is not the one for you.
If I could shoot him, no. So for me, this was the first reveal because I must have forgotten about it. Yeah, no, not necessarily for me. I think for me, I've just had fun of seeing the internet's reaction of just it being deemed Pokemon with guns and stuff like that. And there's been a lot of, I feel like it could get some good meme potential. But yeah, for me, I was just more taken back for, like you said, I was like, okay, how they're different enough, but it just feels so samey that just how does not raise a red flag for some lawyer out there like, I don't know. But even then, I guess you could even make maybe like a parody sort of argument in a sense. So not for me, but maybe one of you guys will play it and I'll get to see something fun come out of it.
Yeah, I guess it's just, for me, it's slightly exciting to have a Pokemon-ish game that actually looks good and like next gen. Like I don't know if this looks fully next gen or anything like that, but it looks good. Whereas all the Pokemon games just kind of look like trash and look very outdated, and they're very, buggy and half finished kind of games. Or this feels like, I mean, it has to be, I think, pretty stellar for it to get an audience, just because it's so hard to pull people away from Pokemon. There's been a couple other games that are trying to get closer to that formula now. So I hope that this game is successful. It does look like a lot of fun. I could see myself picking up because I like that format of Pokemon, but it's just really hard for me to justify paying the amount of money they charge for those games when they are what they are and there's so little iteration and they look and run like trash. So I don't know. I think if this goes on sale down the road or if it's a Game Pass title, I would definitely be excited to check it out. Next up was Lord of the Rings Return to Moria, which based on like Discord reacting to this. Not huge explosive reactions or anything, but it seemed like people hadn't seen this game before. But this has been announced for a long time. This has been sitting on my Steam wishlist for like at least a year. But I don't think it's ever shown up at a big showcase before. So I think for a lot of people, this will be the first time that they've heard this game's existence. And so it's a Lord of the Rings game that is a kind of survival crafting building game set just distinctly only in the mines of Moria. You're playing as a bunch of dwarves. It's a co-op-y sort of game. It definitely looks like a B or a C tier game in terms of just like the budget, and I don't think it's a big known team that is working on it necessarily. But me and Kirkland, I think, talked about this when we did our Lord of the Rings episode. If not, this has definitely come up on Sidequest at some point, and I am excited for it because I feel like it knows exactly what it is, and it seems like it's pretty successfully accomplishing that goal. It's a smaller scale, very specific Lord of the Rings thing, kind of like what Gollum is, trying to be in a way. Obviously, we know how that game went, but I think this is not trying to tell some big epic story. It's just like, here's a cool crafting, mining, building game set in Moria. You play as a bunch of dwarves, have at it, play with your friends, and it's like, that seems great. I'm glad that this game exists, and hopefully it's even halfway decent. I think me and Kirkland and Taylor, whoever wants to jump in, could have a good time playing this game.
I think it's a tale of two stories where you want to have it on a big showcase. You want eyes on it. So Summer Games Fest, lots of people watching. Like at one point my feed was like 350,000 people, so probably by the time you get this, like millions of people watch it. So you want it there, but at the same time, when you're showing off some of these bigger games, I think the problem is for a lot of people seeing it the first time, and I can use myself as that example, is right away, like the fidelity and like the graphics are quite low, or like they look like the 360. And like you said, it's because it's for a certain amount. Like that's not what this game is about. It's about the action and the function, not so much the look. But it's it almost would have feels better like back in the day E3 when they did have like the PC gaming show, and that was more sitting down and talking to people. I feel like this game, you need someone to sit down and talk. I don't know who would watch it, but Lord of the Rings people would, to sell the game. I don't think the footage sells the game unless you're a Lord of the Rings fan. I think it's also just came out at a really bad time because Gollum has just been like drug over the coals of the gaming community. Like it's the new thing to kick, right? It's the new thing to make a joke about. It's the new thing to meme about and stuff. So when you have this game, even though this game isn't about looking like a current gen game, when you have that, I think a lot of people go, oh man, like Lord of the Rings is getting some really bad stuff right now. Yeah, exactly. Right. Where it's like, that's not the function. So I think just bad timing, but do you not want to take the publicity of being on a big stage? No, you want to take that and stuff. So this is something I'd have to see it to like it, because I'm fine for a good old simulator, but I'd have to see it in motion, see if it's actually fun. Because I remember, and some people I remember Taylor talked to like the Jurassic Park simulator, and I thought, oh, that's great, I love that type of stuff. And then I play, I was like, it was just fine. Like I think he hyped it up a bit too much for me, where there's other things in the past where I absolutely love those type of games. So I'd have to see you guys in action first before I would decide to ever jump in there.
I love this comment from Superbad Mike. The game over screen better say you dug too greedily and too deep. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Next up was Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. This is a mobile game. Text down. This is a mobile game. This is one of the many Final Fantasy VII spin-offs that exist. Do you have anything to say on this one,
Nope.
Travis? Okay.
I'm happy for that fan group, which I was a part of at one point, but yeah.
Yep. We'll talk about Final Fantasy VII in a bit. Next up, Banishers Ghost of New Eden, which does not roll off the tongue.
No.
This is from Don't Nod. So this is the studio that does Tell Me Why, that did Life is Strange 1 and 2.
Right.
And so I think this is why I was a bit surprised by this, because it seems very different. Those games have been kind of set in the real world. They're trying to tell a very down-to-earth, emotional story. And there is still like magic elements, at least, to Life is Strange. But this is like a way different setting. It's definitely more fantasy. It seems like there's going to be like some combat potentially in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if necessarily, but definitely more. There's a lot of there's that kind of basic dilemma that you can either save someone or kill them, and that kind of BioShock, what do you do with the little sister kind of thing. And so it seems like it's going to be once again tugging on the heartstrings, be a narrative kind of focus game. That's definitely what their strong point is. I don't know, it's not doing it for me. I've never really played any of their other games. They're not really games for me. necessarily. Do you have anything else on this one?
I felt like, and this is where it's all going to be make or break, right? Because Life is Strange, those are games where I'm like, oh, I'd like to get to at some point, just because I always hear great things about them, right? And I always like choose your own adventures and that sort of deal. So I always hear great praise for them. They win lots of, I feel like anytime they're in those categories for Games for Change or like whatever they are in Game Awards, stuff, like you see them win a lot of Game of the End of the Year awards for minor categories, but still it's an impressive feat because, you know, that's not people die that be winning in some of those categories, right? So for me, this looks like it's a studio trying to level up where it's like, let's take that but bring it to a bigger scale. I think the problem was, and who knows, this is why it'll be when the game comes out. I think with Life is Strange, there's a certain personal touch that comes with those games. It feels very centered on, like, this could be centered, but I like the small scale of those from what I've seen, at least, where this is like, okay, you're getting much bigger. And I think it just almost looked more like with Life is Strange, even though I didn't play them, anytime a trailer would come up, I go, oh, this is going to be Life is Strange. Other than the aspects of what these guys do, it just sometimes looks like the colors, the characters look very generic to stuff we've seen around this time, right? So I think that's what they're trying to do, is add some combat, make it a big scale, because Life is Strange. Some people might go, oh, do I want to play this game about a teenage girl struggling? You know, that cuts off an audience right away of like, I just want to kill stuff and murder and have an adventure. So, but will that translate to this audience? That I don't know. So it didn't sell me either. Like, if I had to choose as of right now, no reviews, like, hey, you can only play one game from these developers, which you can pick, I'd go Life is Strange just because I thought that was a fun take. I'm like you, it's not that I don't have any interest in it, it's just that there's a laundry list of games to play, right? And those always kind of get pushed down. That'll be a retirement game for me when I'm nice and old, and that's when that game list is going to be huge, and I'll get to Life is Strange. So.
Apparently, they made an action game called Remember Me a few years ago, which is an incredibly ironic title because no, I do not remember you. Sorry, game, but you have been lost to the annals of time. Next up, I don't think we're gonna have much to say on this one either, unfortunately. But Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Yakuza games rebranded to Like a Dragon officially a few months ago. So this is the newest
I wonder why.
Yakuza game. Well, I think actually the Japanese title for the game has always been Like a Dragon. I think it was only in North America that it was Yakuza, and so they're just connecting them, I think. And then I don't know where the Gaiden comes in. I feel like that might mean it's like a prequel series, or maybe this is a remake or something. This is not my series, and I apologize for that.
Yeah.
But I thought it seemed like this got a pretty big reaction from the crowd, because obviously the Yakuza games, Like a Dragon games, are huge. People love those. But I also thought there was like one that either just came out or is coming out soon. There's this is like Final Fantasy, where there's so many games always coming out that I cannot keep cannot keep track as someone who is not actively playing these games. So anything to add on that one?
No, I've never played a single one, but it looks like the community was happy with it. There was a pop in the crowd. So it's like, hey, you're doing it right. It looked cool. I was like, man, they should bring some of these mechanics to make a Sung-Shi game, you know, like some of the things he was doing with the powers here. But yeah, I'm like you. There's so much out there. Who knows where to jump on, but.
COD Season 4 is coming out, I think, pretty soon. I think it's next weekend is when the new map drops, something like that.
I think it might be this weekend, actually. Or am I wrong with that? I think it's coming, because I think Taylor's been excited about it. So, but I've like, well, you got a baby on the way. I don't think.
Yeah, he might be too busy to be jumping into Warzone. But a new map is coming to Warzone, and then all the other things that come with a new season. But the new map is the most exciting thing. It's been a bit since we've played. I mean, I was gone for a bit, but even before that, I feel like it's been maybe a month or two.
We haven't played because the move, so we haven't played in ages. So yeah, I'd be excited to jump in because like I like this current map, but I don't love it as much as the first ones. And I know sometimes it might just be because those were the first ones, but I feel like both the Battle Royale and the Warzone, or Resurgence, I guess I should say, they don't stick with me. Like I feel like I drop on them and I'm still like, okay, what does this map look like? Like, and that'll be like from week to week, where I feel like some of those old Warzone maps, like, okay, I remember like there's specific construction zone, and you had certain elements of the map where it's like you just, you know, I can't remember their physical names, but it's just be like, okay, I have an idea. This one just feels very blend together, so I'm excited to try, and hopefully it's a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Al Mazrah is like the default one that launched with Warzone 2 was definitely a big letdown for all of us. And then Ashika Island, I do love that one. I think it's a great map, and I think we've had some good times on that one, the Resurgence map. And I remember seeing like some screenshots of this new map a few days ago, and then seeing some of the footage here got me pretty excited for what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they were running around a giant chessboard, so I like that.
Yeah,
and
that's
just
cool.
like the general aesthetic of it is pretty cool, and I'm into it. So I think me, you, Taylor, maybe Kirkland, who knows if he'll show his face, we'll definitely be jumping in to check this out at some point. So expect someone to talk about it on Sidequest
Of course, yeah.
at some point when we get a chance to jump in there. Next up was Marvel Snap. They had Ben Brode, I think his name is, who came up on stage, and he's always a very eclectic kind of character. He came out and was telling everyone about the new game mode that's coming out, which if you're a Marvel Snap fan, you already know this is a thing that was coming out, but I guess for people who do not play, it's like, oh, here, jump in with this new mode. I'm curious what you thought about him coming out here and the showcase, because just in the last few months, and I've talked about some of the crazy characters that are in there, you're like, oh man, I got to check this game out. But I didn't feel like this was actually a great showcase for what Marvel Snap is, and I don't think he sold it very well. So did he sell you any more than me saying that like Khazar is in the game sells you?
Yeah, Khazar. He should have talked about Khazar a lot more. So we got Khazar gold cards. No, not really. Again, I've said before, I'm staying away from Marvel Snap for personal reasons, not to get addicted to it. Because me and card games, that'll kill my video game
Spider-Gwen
list.
is the new card this month, so you better stay away, because that's dangerous times for you.
Yeah, I already thought about when I saw her. You know, I have a daughter named after her. So one of these times, I just feel like if I do it, that video game list goes away. But no, I think it's Marvel Snap. Other than maybe a few things you do, I think now it's just building upon that community or it's more about keeping that community and making them happy and stuff. You're always going to get some new users coming in and out, but I think they've got their numbers now, and there'll be someone like me that eventually will download it, and always good to see. Is this Spider-Gwen's debut?
Yeah, she's like the premier card for this season's pass for this month.
But yeah, with
so
that you have
she
to like
just launched it a
buy,
few
like
days
you got to
ago.
buy the
You
pass to get her and everything like that.
You have to buy her specifically, yeah. And
I'm
then,
good.
I mean, she'll become like a free-to-play character in like, I guess as of next, I guess as of next month you could potentially get her, but then she'll actually become like affordable like 3 or 4 or 5 months from now. So
let me know when that happens. Yeah.
yeah, I'll let you know. Yeah, and then I mean I'm playing a lot of Marvel Snap right now. I'm really enjoying where it's at. I think it's in a pretty good spot. This new mode should only help that. I still don't fully understand how the new mode works, but I'll definitely be checking out. I've been thinking about doing another episode on it, just talking about some of the new decks that I've been using lately, and maybe I'll bundle that in talking about the new mode. So expect that at some point, but I'm the only one here who plays it, so a little bit difficult. But I had to talk about on Sidequest a little bit this week as well. And then the next movie, or I guess TV adaptation that we had here was Twisted Metal. So I think we got like I guess a teaser somewhat recently, but this was I don't even know if you'd call it.
Teaser's awful.
This is
a
more
clip.
like a scene.
It's a clip.
Than
Yeah.
it's a clip. What do you think about this clip?
I think I'm spoiled. Yeah, I feel like it's tough because we're now, I don't say we're in the golden age, but it's just, it always reminds me where you got Last of Us and you got Witcher and you got Mario, and you can debate all the qualities of that, but it just reminds me of like in 2008 you got The Dark Knight, and then the next year you got like X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's like, how do those come out within a year of each other? And yeah, as S-Bubs is asking here, Twisted Metal Midnight Review. No, I think you can expect a no review there. Everything about it looks not great. It was just Will Arnett giving this, and I like Will Arnett, but he gives this intro, like, we've been working on it for a while. It's like you came into the booth and did a couple of voices. That's Samoa Joe, one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. That's Sweet Tooth. That's not you. So that's one. But Anthony Mackie looks like he's kind of asleep here. Maybe that's not the whole series, but it's just that. Wow. I don't understand. I've never understood the idea of a series for Twisted Metal. That to me has prime time, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, big budget, smash and dash and robot fighting, weird characters, car crash movie, not a series on Peacock. And to me, them showing this clip to me shows that most of the series, you'll have the cars, but it's probably going to be stuff like this. And I don't think I'm expecting this thing to die. It's going to get canceled. It's not going to do well viewers, ratings wise. This is one of these things where this feels like 5 years ago video game adaptations when we first started the podcast of, man, they're just cashing in. And yeah, this does not look, I just don't think, and even then when they came back from the crowd, it was like that smattering of applause. Like, yeah, like it just, I don't know who this show's for. I don't know who you could pitch it to, other than if you are a diehard, your favorite thing's Twisted Metal. But even then, you can see, look at Taylor with Halo. Like, he loves Halo, and that was not even for him, right? So it's just like, I don't know what they're doing this, so.
Yeah,
oh, I think
Nev
Campbell's in the show.
Who was that?
She's the actress. She's
Bruce
the main star
Campbell's
from
daughter or
No. She plays Sydney in Scream. That's like her. She's like the main antagonist of that horror series, and she's done other things. She's a great actress, but that's very unfortunate. So,
Twisted Metal, where great actors and actresses go to die. I feel
yeah,
like.
the new Captain America's wasting his time over here in Twisted Metal.
It does. I was thinking about that. Like, man, this is a very weird thing for Anthony Mackie to, cut the check on. It's a very weird choice. I must have been some good paychecks there. I don't know why else you'd want to. I think you pretty much nailed it. I don't think I have much to add. This looks awful. It's not funny. It's awkward because the voice of Sweet Tooth is not the guy that's wearing the mask. So like the timing is kind of weird, and like I don't know. I should the clip not have been some like cool car scene?
Yes,
Like,
it's a easy. Is
the budget not good enough for them to be in the car very often? And so instead you're going to have people talking in rooms, in which case, why is this twisted? It seems like a lot of bad decisions one after another. So I don't foresee myself checking this one out. I think what I might do is go on YouTube and watch like the big climactic car chase scene. That's like, here's the big match. That's like in the final episode. But
I feel like it's gonna be like a 7-minute clip, and you're gonna be 2 minutes into it, and you'll be like, oh, this budget is not there. Like, I feel like what you said, that they will not be in the car that much, and when they are, it's not gonna look great. Like, I don't think this is about the cars. It's about whoever Anthony Mackie is. And that's what Twisted Metal fans want, I guess, is a show about Twisted Metal that's not about cars. So.
Immortals of Avium was up next, and this had what you mentioned earlier of, I guess, a voice actor coming up talking about his role,
star.
His character, the star, and then they showed this kind of gameplay sequence, but then they kind of cut away from the gameplay and then like cut back to it. They were like doing some weird splicing thing. I think the set piece was very cool. You're like on this just massive kind of. It
was a mech in the water. That's what he said.
A massive golden mech in the water, and that's like what the level is. You're climbing up this mech, and there's mechs fighting and stuff like that. It seemed really cool. I think every time I see this game, something about it like looks too good to be true, but then like some of the gameplay sequences just looked okay. So I guess I look at this one and I see all the marketing behind it, and I just can't believe that it's going to be a very good game. I don't know what it is about that. It's just a feeling. And so I'd love to be proven wrong, and hopefully this game's sick. And if it is, then I think it's up my alley. Like, I like magic and I like first-person shooters, so it's like it's definitely up my alley. So if I hear really good things about it, I'll probably pick it up and check it out and enjoy it. But I just don't see that being where this timeline takes us. But I feel like this is, for some reason, this does not seem at all like a Travis game. That's the vibe I get.
But I feel like what you're saying, something about just doesn't pass the smell test. You know, like there's something, because this was on the PlayStation Showcase as well, and that's the same thing. Like Kirkland almost sold me a bit more. So it's like, okay, but I think Kirkland said he's very much into. So I don't know if it's a day one for him, but there's just something off where I've been here before, I've seen this type of game before, and I've seen how it goes down. And for me, it's like, I loved the idea when he pitched it, but I felt like when they showed the showcase, I didn't get that sense of a big level at all, just because it's first person. For me, it's just like a lot of quick movement, and you don't really get to soak it in. And for me, it was odd way to picture like, hey, and he's an actor, he has to do this, right? Like, oh, this is one of the best, like, boss levels I've ever played in a video game. So it's like, okay, sure. And then you go to clip, and then there's like 2 or 3 cuts in between it. So it's like, it was supposed to be this great thing. Why are we cutting away from it? So I don't think definitely not for me, but I think this will be a game that eats it, and I think we'll have the highest scores will be like a 6.5. That's what I imagine. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't. And the fact that it's coming out July, I was like, oh my god, like that's soon. I feel like there's very little fanfare for this game. So I don't see it doing well critically or financially. I
guess maybe the one positive is I don't think there's really too much coming out in July. I know Pikmin is there, but that's a pretty different audience. And
people just save their money. They'll save their money. Doesn't matter if nothing's out in July. They'll buy Pikmin, which I think could do well, or they'll be like, hey, I got Alan Wake, Spider-Man, Mortal Kombat, all this stuff in fall. I'm not buying
Oh, I know Kirkland is picking up Pikmin, so I don't know if he's going to make room for picking up both these games. I don't see that happening.
I think that came down to, I think you're right, because I think we talked about it in the showcase, and I think he brought Pikmin, and he's like, yeah, I think I'm out. So it's like, yeah, that's what happens.
Pikmin, the Immortals of Avium killer, apparently.
Don't mess with Pikmin, you know?
The true, giant in the water. Giant man. And then the show closed out with Final Fantasy. Actually, sorry, before we talk, is there any other games that I skipped over that you wanted to bring up?
No, I think I was looking through the list. I think you hit them all.
So we'll get into this then, yeah. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the part 2 of. I guess we still don't know how many parts this whole thing is going to be.
Better just be a part 2. Let's not get ridiculous now and just leave it. I
think the first one was only like 10-15%. Maybe 20% of that original game. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I feel like a trilogy seems kind of nice if they do that. And I guess they already did, because they did
Milking it.
The first one, and then they did like a DLC for it, right? It wasn't technically part 2. I already forget the name of what that was. And then there's now this, which is supposedly coming out early 2024. That it's going to be supposedly 2 discs if you get the physical version there. So expect a lot of gigabyteage going on, especially if you're going to get that whole trilogy on your one cartridge. Like, you're not going to have space for that on your hard drive. That is going to be brutal. But yeah, I mean, neither of us have played I think we both played the demo, right, for the first part, because I remember talking about that on the show. But I don't think we'll be picking this up. I think this, once again, looks fantastic in terms of the budget for it, the just visuals of the environments. Combat looks great. I love that there's that hybrid. You can either do turn-based or action. Some of the new characters, some of the story stuff. Like, it all looks fantastic, and I guess I just don't know what I'm waiting for. I guess I'm not enough into Final Fantasy. I just want to wait until this whole thing is done, the whole trilogy, whatever it's going to end up being, before I make my declaration. But I can't say anything bad about this trailer. I thought it was fantastic, and obviously got a lot of people really hyped up. I guess I was just hoping, when Jeff Keighley said at the very top of the show that you don't know what you're going to see at the very end of this thing, I was hoping it'd be something that I personally could get a little more attached to.
Yeah, so for me, like the two minds of it, for the Keighley announcement, that's because that was the debate in our Discord about, this is an exciting one, does it match the hype? For me, the way Keighley was pitching this is it was either a big new IP or like a new game focused around an IP, something like that, or it was the first look at something. The same way Elden Ring, hey, we all knew about Elden Ring, but that was the reveal, right? And I know someone's gonna be like, well, this is the first look of part 2. We know what it looks like. We know what it plays like. We know this game's coming. And like I said, for me, I just feel like a few podcasts I listened to and the Twitter threads I saw, like, most people are like, oh, we'll probably even get like a cinematic of, like, I feel like many people are like, we'll probably see this there. So for me, it did not fit the big surprise thing. And luckily not luckily, but I just feel like there's other people that are agreeing with that, as far as I feel them saying he dropped the ball in some senses, because I feel you can talk it up and say, hey, I'm very excited for this last game and stuff, but for the whole, like, you don't want to miss this, I feel like Keighley's smart enough to know that the Final Fantasy games do very well. I don't know how Final Fantasy VII did, but there is still, like, it's a certain market of people that do that, and I'm somebody, loved that game back in the day. It's one that I played when I was younger, so it's like, it's a whole, like, amalgamation of just, like, when we talk about Indiana Jones, like, the just stuff that I did, and I'm in the same bench of you as I think I technically own this remake already, like the first one. I just haven't played it. I bought it on a sale, and I'm just in that mindset of, I think I want to play it all once it's all out. So I don't like this 3-part stuff. I feel like they're kind of milking it a little bit for the sales, but whatever. And yeah, it looks great. So I think it is a big game. I think it'd be great if you had a bunch of them, but I think he oversold it to the point of, hey, what could this be? And it's like, oh, it's just Final Fantasy VII Part 2. Okay, like, it's something we actively know about, that gets talked about a lot. And it's, like I said, it's a first reveal. Maybe the biggest thing is the date, but like, lots of times these dates don't stick, so that doesn't mean much. Like, it was the early 2024, so it's like, well, if it's early, that means it's not too far away, so why is there not a date on it? So I don't know. It was but everything you said, it's kind of much like the first part for me. It all looks great. I'm very excited to get into it one day. It's just because it's a remake of a game that I have played before, and I understand why I'm a fan of the series, but I'm not a massive fan, so I understand why those people got to jump into it. But for me, it's kind of like right now, if they were to, it's not the same comparison, but like right now, if they were announcing a Batman Arkham Asylum remake, I don't think I'd have to jump into it because it's just a game that I don't feel like I have to replay right now. And that's where I am with Final Fantasy VII, where I'm excited because also it's a full remake, the looks, everything. I want the complete package first and stuff like that. So I'm excited to get to it at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in terms of the hype level for me, it's hard for me to be too disappointed about being the closer. I know this is just not something that's personally for me, but for a lot of people is going to land. I think it would have worked for me better if there was just one or two other announcements that were on this tier and ones that appealed more to me. Because as it stands, like my highlight for the show is probably like Sandland. That might be like the thing I was most hyped for, like maybe Alan Wake, but then again, I didn't even really love the showcase. I just like the IP, and Spider-Man, I guess that could be in there, but it feels like slightly cheating to put that as my answer because it came out with that like PlayStation thing first. So I apologize to any of the hardcore fans who want like more of a breakdown on the trailer. I just can't really give it to you, to be honest. So hopefully when we come to the Xbox showcase at the end of the week, I can give you a lot more breakdown there. And God, I know like whatever the Xbox part is, I'm sure there'll be some things there for me, but the Starfield thing alone, I think is going to just blow the roof off for me. And is going to be like, even that showcase they had last year, I've watched like 5 or 6 or 7 times now and like paused and looked at all the details, and I can't wait to do that again with that. But Travis, any closing thoughts on this? And we like to do the out of 5 rating for these showcases. What are you gonna give this objectively, quote unquote, and what are you gonna give it for your personal rating? I know we did the letters earlier, but what about that out of 5 rating?
Yeah, the personal, I think I'd be like at a 3. The objective, I'm like, I don't know if we ever did 0.5s and stuff like that. If it was, I'd be like at a 3.75 for like an objective. I don't think it's quite a 4. So to me, 4 is like a B plus, where this is like I guess it's 3.5. So it's probably like I don't know what that's probably like a B somewhere there. So somewhere in that realm, I think it was a good show. I don't think it's what anyone's going to be talking about. I think next weekend or this weekend, Xbox will steal the show with just Starfield. I think, as we talked about on the predictions, me and Taylor, I think they're going to probably play it safe as usual, show off some good stuff. All I want from this week is the show replaced and a date, not just because of draft. I really want to play that game. I just saw a couple people within the Xbox community tweeting that like, like just gifts of it, like this weekend, like question marks, like not scoopers, just people like hoping. I was like, yeah, I'm on that train of like, I want to know. And again, that could have interfered with some of my game stuff. So overall, fun show, but nothing that they're gonna write about to the gods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I'd give this a 3 out of 5 in terms of the quote-unquote objective rating. For myself, I'm honestly like in the 1 to 2 range. Like there's just really, I mean, I just got to be honest. There, like if Sandland was my highlight, it looks cool and all, but like, come on, I need a bit more than that. So I'll go with 2 because because of Spider-Man, because of Alan Wake and whatnot. But yeah, definitely a weaker show for me. But I don't think this is Jeff Keighley dropping the ball. I think it's hopefully some of the other stuff that he has tied with Summer Game Fest are, some big announcements. I'm very excited for the Annapurna show now. That's like a cool thing to get excited about. This Xbox showcase, that's probably part of Summer Game Fest. Who the hell knows at this point? Very curious what Nintendo is going to do, if anything. They just dropped a new trailer for Pikmin like on Twitter this week, so I feel like that's a good showing. That if that's their biggest new game coming out in the next like month or two, that they're probably not going to do a showcase until, I don't know, maybe even their September one that they usually do. We'll see, even though there's been some rumors stirring. But yeah, any final closing thoughts here? Are we done for the day and coming back on Sunday for Xbox?
No, yeah, we'll be back on Sunday. Time to be TBD because the conference is right in the middle. If Taylor's available, then these guys might be going live right away. But if Taylor's in a hospital somewhere, then it's just me. So that's where the time will be dependent on all life stuff. But I'm hoping something good there. As we talk about that predictions, I'm just really hoping that Ubisoft shows off some Star Wars, just because more curiosity. Not that I'm like dying for a Star Wars game, because I had Jedi Fallen Order and I quite enjoy that. But I'm just curious what they're gonna do with that. And I'm excited. Hopefully, the Game Awards has a little bit more chutzpah to it. A little bit more, not even a full stand, but maybe a stand on one hand, just a little more juice all around. So
yeah, I could see that happening. Thank you, Travis, for joining me. This is a fun one as usual. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in the live chat today, and we'll see you in just a few short days. Have a good one. Bye.